This is American Dumpster Fire.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to American Dumpster Fire. This is Loki.
This is Tyr.
And Odin.
And we're going to primarily talk about education today, specifically the war on it. Now, I did a poll earlier, and out of 18 votes, 18 of you, that's right, 100% of the vote, believe that our education system is under attack, and specifically so, not just passively. So we're going to have a little talk about that. But first, the news. So there's a few goofy things going on. We can talk about the impeachment, which I don't know what. We've got a bunch of do-nothings in the right wing trying to just obstruct the trial, right? They're trying to keep anything from happening.
Yeah, from what I understand, most of
So
it's just arguing about the fact that they're not willing to, accept what's happening.
Right. They're a terrorist insurrection trying to ruin our country. And
I'm trying to keep on top of it, and honestly, it's all just weird facts that are coming out, and I haven't seen anything of important happen. They're limiting themselves to water and milk.
yeah, it makes no sense. His rules are stupid.
I guess because they're trying to make people fall asleep. Maybe they can't have caffeine. I don't know. Because they went to 2 a.m. one night. And
Yeah. Mitch McConnell is a farce.
I mean, they actually had because they weren't having cameras on site, they did draw. They had, courtroom artist who actually drew. I'm trying to remember who it was who fell asleep.
Well, and Adam Schiff gave a speech, and then a bunch of Republicans just walked out and they wouldn't listen to it, and it's just like,
Really?
This isn't a trial. This is a bunch of fucking children.
Well,
you
yeah,
know-
because it keeps arguing over what evidence or what witnesses are allowed, if any.
Yeah,
It's
Mitch McConnell's
it's
playing
supposed to
fucking
be
games.
a trial, which means you should admit any legally gathered evidence and listen to any legal witnesses.
Well, they're also arguing over even how to conduct the trial.
It's because they are morons.
It's,
The Republican Party is loaded with fucking idiots. It's pretty simple.
It just feels like
And they
a
are
temper
precise
tantrum.
representations of who voted for them.
I don't know. I just like to report like what's going on, what's changed, and it doesn't seem like week to week anything has happened.
I agree.
Nothing
Although-
is happening. No, justice is being obstructed. That's what's happening. Justice is being obstructed. So, it's pretty simple. So you had...
Oh, I was just laughing.
from one farce to another?
Yeah, Space Force has an official logo, and it's from Star Trek.
Yeah, it looks like you asked somebody on Fiverr to design the Star Trek logo
Okay.
from memory.
Yeah, it basically is.
No, it looks like they traced it.
It has the same emblem, except it's a little more angular, a little more like a stealth fighter or something.
So Star Trek, you should
it's,
sue the White
it's a
House.
white arrow, but it's got the same swoosh in the exact same kind of angle in the same exact way behind a starfield, which is kind of obvious. But I mean, everything about it is like, if it was an accident, it's an accident from subconscious mind of someone who loves Star Trek.
Yeah.
It's too on the nose.
It is not an accident. I'm fairly convinced that Trump probably thinks that Star Trek is an actual show, a reality TV from the future.
Documentary.
Whatever happened to the Enterprise? Where did they park that?
Yeah, so George Takei
Exactly.
commented that they might be owed some royalties.
I think so, yeah. And, well, I told you the dumb thing. Well, there's many dumb things. The dumb thing is in the White House. But that the Space Force uniform is camouflage. Like normal camouflage. Not like moon camouflage or...
Okay, so
It's just...
not white and gray
like, no,
pixelated,
it's like green-brown
It's like, yeah,
camouflage.
green and brown.
Yeah, it's like...
Okay, unless we have the planet that we're going to
Who
invade
are you
picked out,
hiding
I don't
from?
understand this.
like
I mean, maybe you don't want to be seen when you're hiding from Predator.
Okay, well,
Wait, is this-
first off, if we end up on Mars, Mars is red.
Is
Just
this a
isn't the right
spacesuit
color.
camouflage or the outfit you're
Yeah,
wearing
it's just
under
like-
the
It's
spacesuit?
just like a military uniform in camouflage. It's really dumb.
So it's just like a really stupid photo op? I
Yeah,
need
I
to
don't
find this.
I mean,
Like, what?
I'm just... And the things we're worried about are so stupid. It's like, we have no way to, support this whole Space Force thing. Like, what are you going to do? Like...
I'm not sure who we're doing battle with.
The
I mean-
Martians, maybe. I don't know. I'm sure he thinks...
Now,
it's something.
if it's us targeting other satellites with satellites, that I'd get. But
No, I think that his entire thought is that he knows damn well that he is furthering the destruction of the planet, and he's hoping that somebody will find a place that he can live when he has fucked everything up here.
Well, might need to shift a
This
little
is
more
his-
money towards NASA if you want to get that done.
I mean, I'm all for funding the hell out of NASA. I mean, of course, and
Oh, I was going to say
Oh,
I'm
it's a
for
joke
funding
what
the
their
idea of
budget is.
shipping Trump up to the moon or something.
but we want NASA to make Space Force, but we don't trust NASA with global warming evidence and stuff like that. Like, make up your fucking mind. Either you can trust them or you can't.
Is it NASA that's handling Space Force?
Yeah. Well, I mean, right now they're really all we have.
Well,
Oh, I
thought it was
just
supposed to be,
expected-
yeah, I thought it was supposed to be an expansion on the Air Force.
Well,
yeah,
sure,
that's what I was going to
but
say. Is
the
I
Air
expected
Force
Trump to
doesn't
do.
have spaceships.
I expected Trump to assign this to the military.
True.
We're gonna make space boats. It's better than spaceships.
Oh my god.
I think he comes up with this shit while he's on Ambien and fucking Adderall. Like he mixes the two, and then.
It would explain a lot.
I'm just telling you. So, did we have more in the news? Did
No, not really.
Did the Uncle Touchy in Chief do anything gross this time?
Do you
I know
something
he was
don't?
beating up on. Well, he was like being nasty to Greta at that. What was it called?
Oh.
I can't remember what it was called. There was another conference or whatever, and Greta was there, and he was just being a dick as usual. And somebody made mention of it, and I'm like, well, just be happy he's not like trying to molest her like he does everybody else. He's a creep.
Oh.
So, but anyways, the real focus of today's show is about education.
Oh, that was the one thought I had leading into this, actually. And that was that you were talking about NASA and budgets. And from what I remember hearing, it was a 7-to-1 return on investment.
Yeah.
And
The amount of things that
I don't
NASA
think
comes up with
education-
just trying to solve problems is amazing, too.
it's a 7-to-1, but even if it was half that, well worth it. And that's the thing is that it just shows you where our priorities are based on where we spend our tax dollars.
Yeah, no, our priorities are really stupid. I mean, because our number one priority, of course, is war. We put so much money into the defense budget, so much more than every what we got a bigger military than the next 7 countries or something like that.
It was 16. I think we're down
well,
to 12 or 14.
we
Yeah, but it's like by double or
but
something.
but we have the first and second biggest militaries in the world.
Yeah, it was. I believe the statistic was 16, and 15 of them are our allies.
Right. Yeah. So well, but to be fair, by the time Trump is done, we're not going to have any allies.
Oh, God.
that is a fair point.
I really hope that these other countries are aware of the weird nature of our country and are willing to
I think some of
outlive
them are.
I
this.
think
mean,
they
in
feel
fact,
sorry for us.
Even some of our enemies realize that the problem is him and not the rest of us.
Just wait it out. Just
I mean, look, Iran actually handled this whole conflict with them
With
more
more
maturely
maturity. Oh,
than he
yes.
did. And I was like, okay, I feel bad for the way I thought Iran would react. Because I wouldn't have blamed them had they done a full retaliation, not this just, all right, we're done retaliating. I was expecting war, but thankfully they were more mature than he is.
Thankfully, yes. Thankfully, they saw what he did and didn't react in the way that they could have, the way that he probably would have.
we're going through a growth
Um,
spurt. Just it's just a phase.
Growth
Oh
spurt.
my God. It's a very uncomfortable phase.
Our country went through a lobotomy. We're trying to get a brain transplant.
Sweet Jesus. Oh, and look, we're trying to make it worse.
So, and that's why I'm bringing up education. And look, I thought for a long time that the problems with our education system was underfunding and apathy and stuff like that.
That's a lot of things. I mean, funding is on a local level, and that's a lot of the issue is that you're only good as the community that's funding it, and then you're raising people in a poor environment to then further fund a school, which is just a downward spiral.
There's a downward spiral of classism and racism involved in the
No,
whole
that's
situation.
true. I mean, the education system is specifically racist.
It completely is.
And a lot of people will disagree with it because they can't see the whole picture.
Well, good for them that they are in a position where they don't see it.
Right. So, but education, especially public education, is under attack in America, which means fairness and equality are under attack in America. The average cost of private primary school education is about $7,700 per year, and the average cost of a high school education is about $13,000 per year. The average public college has reached over $20,000 per year, and private nonprofit colleges have reached almost $47,000 per year. These are unsustainable numbers. These are insane. I
They
couldn't
are.
imagine. Could you imagine having to pay to send your kids to primary school and high school and stuff like that? Paying? You would have
you
to
think they're
finance
ignorant
it.
now?
I'd be homeless.
Oh my God, you'd be lucky if a third of the kids were educated.
But that's this is the eventual goal. The eventual goal is to force us out of public schools.
But
They
why
want
is
to
this-
end public schooling and force you to pay for it.
Okay, I know you're going somewhere with it. We're building up. It's we got things to talk about. But while we're on this, why is it acceptable? I mean, just follow me in this second. If it would cost that much to send someone to middle and high school, and we don't accept that, we were like, this is a bare minimum. They got to have this. We know that not even a third of them would have it if they had to pay for it. But somehow college is okay like this. I don't understand
look,
that.
At one
I really
time,
don't get
at
that.
one time, high
Because
school
that's the goal.
was considered unnecessary at one time. But the problem is that as our civilization advances,
Yeah, until
so do
2009.
our education requirements, right? We are at the point to where the majority of our people need a college education of some sort, even if that includes some kind of vocational school or what have you, because we still need to train people. What?
You guys are looking at this backwards. Completely backwards. You are looking at it as, what do our people need? They are looking at it as, one, like, look at
What
that.
can we take from our people?
Not just that, but they are looking at it as, do you remember that that politician who was who made news not too long ago because he wanted to eliminate college because it tends to create liberals.
Oh, elitist.
No, I get that, and that's
Yes.
actually not the whole of the story,
Oh,
and
God.
a lot of that stuff is pandering to idiots.
But the bottom line is that this party that is suggesting these changes benefits from an uneducated populace.
In the short run,
Nobody benefits from an
the
uneducated
entire nation
populace.
collapses eventually.
But-
the economy
but I
collapses.
challenge-
Every other country is already passing us up
I challenge Republicans.
because they value education.
I challenge Republicans to go to a surgeon that doesn't have a college education.
Right.
You do it, guys. Go get you a dentist.
Oh, no, but you're
that's
missing
never
the point.
gone to
Rich
college.
people will always be able to afford college.
No,
and that's
thanks.
the thing, is they're
Right.
driving a divide that they want to be there. Basically, they want the poor to suffer. They want the middle class to not
Well,
be able to educate
because
their
you
children.
can't compete with their idiot kids if you
Right.
can't get a college education.
Exactly.
So their morons will just rule by default,
exactly.
which is what they want. They want an elitist society. They want a
And they're
society where the
succeeding.
elitist
And
automatically
that's the
rule.
point, is that they're not looking at it as, well, our population needs to be educated. They're looking at it as, how can we... They're attacking education.
It'll be slavery by default.
Exactly.
You'll be too uneducated to ever be able to rise
And
to
I will be
anything.
the first one to tell you
Not
that
far from that. I mean,
we
at least
aren't.
as far as wage
the
slave.
existing Department of Education is already flawed. The federal Department of Education was originally formed basically to create little worker bees that are smart enough to work the machines but not smart enough to rise up
sure.
against their superiors. So the whole system was never created to make innovators and leaders. It was always created to drive little hive minds.
Well, I don't know if that's entirely true.
Oh, it's pretty true.
No, I mean, in a sense, yes. In a sense, no. Follow me with a second. Our education has always risen to the need. So when the Industrial Revolution came along,
To the need
we-
of the workforce.
we
not
got
to
a
the
high
need
school.
of
To the need of the
Okay.
corporations.
when we entered the technological age, college became more important. But the thing is that the whole liberal arts thing, gym and all these things were tacked on. They weren't necessary
they
to
were
operate a
But it's to
machine.
make a more rounded person.
They were tacked on to
But-
make no.
If you're just
There-
making factory workers, you don't need art.
you don't. There's a small faction of people who have been trying to tack these on for some period of time, but that's not the overall agenda. We look at it this way: how many kids does school's current system not work for? That's the bottom line, is we're not teaching kids the way that they learn. We're forcing
No,
them
this is true.
into a mass mind situation. They're ordered to sit down, shut up, and do nothing but
Yeah.
parrot back the things that you're told, even when they're not correct.
This is because the people in charge don't. They are supposed to work for us, but they don't.
They don't.
They're
And the
making
bottom line-
citizens. That's what they're making.
They're not making citizens. They're making workers. They're
Yeah.
making workers that obey and do not
And
question.
if you fail out and go to jail, nobody cares.
No,
That's
because
how
then
the
you'll
system's
just
always
work
been.
in prison.
See, but in the prison, you're still useful. In our prisons, because these private prisons, you're a profit.
Well, sure, because you only make
And
7
And
cents
that's
an
my
hour.
point. Is regardless,
Well,
you're still
and
benefiting the corporations.
They're making money off the government, which is your tax dollars that you're feeding back into the system, and then
Right.
they're selling these
Services.
slaves.
But you're coming from a
services.
cynical end. I'm coming from
It's not cynical. It's fact.
okay, but you're talking like as if it's engineered. I'm saying is
No, it is.
no. I'm saying it's careless disregard.
No,
No,
it's
it's
engineered.
engineered.
And they're profiting
It's
from it
No, it's,
wherever they can.
It
It
is
was
engineered
created
this way.
I truly don't
the
believe it.
elites want you. No,
The Federal Department of Education was created because they needed people smart enough to fuel a workforce.
Of course. And like I said,
Its
and,
entire
and,
We
purpose
need-
and if
is
you
to
don't
benefit,
succeed, that's on you.
its entire purpose is to create people that benefit corporations.
we need
Yeah.
a government
That
that
is-
is citizen centric.
That
It is
is-
about us.
But that's a
not
modern
the
ideal.
corporations.
Okay, but the bottom line is that this education system is failing children because we
Of course.
we don't teach children the way that they learn.
I
We're
mean-
trying to force them into a mold that too many kids don't fit in.
Our
I did-
country
And
in general
should
has
not
failed the average
fit
citizen.
in.
I totally agree, but you're talking as if the education system's failing. I'm
It's
saying
rigged.
it's working exactly as it's always been designed.
I agree. It
Well,
was
no,
just
that's what we're
designed,
saying.
Yeah.
It's designed to screw you.
Well, it's designed to make good citizens. If you don't fit that mold, screw you.
No, it's not designed to make good citizens. It's designed to make people who meet the bare minimum requirements to work in whatever, popular industry
I didn't say
is out
happy
now.
citizens.
I mean, that's all it's meant for. You can't,
Because our value as a citizen of the United States is nothing more than how can you work? How
What
much
can you
can
do
you work? What can you do for the corporations? How much can they squeeze out of you
Right.
before you
What
fucking
can you
break?
do for your country?
how
It's
can
not
you
your
support the
country.
elites?
What can you do for the corporations that
The
run
gross
this
national
country?
product.
That run this country, and that's the bottom line: is you are only
They're
valuable
unions, yeah.
as a human being as long as you are feeding them money. Your labor is the only thing of value, and they're the ones that are getting all the rewards.
Don't get me
So-
wrong. I'm playing devil's advocate here. I am a human. I enjoy being taken seriously as an individual human. But, I mean, speaking from the level of a large corporation or the government, I really don't think they care about an individual person.
They don't
They
care
really
about
don't.
anything except for profit, and that's why the country is the way that it is.
So, as wages remain stagnant and the prices and the cost of sustaining one's life has skyrocketed, it is clear that the education and, by extension, the American way of life is under attack. But what does that mean for us, and why is it still happening? The only way for our economy to remain as powerful as it has been is to keep and build a competitive and skilled population. Our people are our greatest commodity. And corporations do know that. But they're so multinational, they don't care. You know what I'm saying?
Well, see, I was trying to do some research into this and the rising cost of college and stuff like that. And right from the beginning, for the most part, colleges would never be able to fund themselves to even exist if people didn't take student loans. So from the beginning, the government has been trying, was Roosevelt, tried to give out low interest and no interest loans and all that. So from the beginning, people were in hock. And, it was much less then when we had escalation. But if you look at the wages at the time period and compare them and scale them, honestly, not much has changed. It seems egregious. I thought the shift was from the 60s, but it actually was from the 80s. In the last 30-odd years, it has tripled in scale, where our cost of living raises have not. So, I mean, it's a very recent increase.
if minimum wage
It is,
kept
it
up with
was-
inflation, we'd be making up. And
But
we-
loans have done this.
if
It's
minimum,
not just loans. Go ahead.
if minimum wage kept up with both inflation and corporate salaries, the average person would be making about $22 an hour right now. And that's actually from a couple years ago. That's not even most recent. And we have seen since Trump took office, cost of living has skyrocketed, and the value of the dollar has dropped. So
Well, look at this. In 1960, the minimum wage was $1. 1980, $3. Today, I think it's like $8.85 or something.
I think it's still 7 in Ohio, 7 something.
No, well, I thought it went up to 8 something.
Oh, did it this year?
Yeah.
It might have just this year.
I have,
But nonetheless,
I have
that
it
is
somewhere,
grossly
but-
below what's livable. You can't live off this.
Yeah, but I'm saying is if you look at the time, it's like,
It
especially
did.
when you look at college tripling,
It went up January 1st.
The
so you're
scale
correct.
is not-
triple.
oh yeah.
No. Since the 80s, it's up 1,000%.
Education.
I'm
yeah.
talking about compared to wages and all that. I'm saying the
I'm telling you.
buying power of the dollar.
No. You could work a part-time job in the 80s and afford both your apartment and to go to college.
Yeah.
Today, you have to work 6 of those jobs to afford college alone.
They're purposely driving the cost of education up to make it a privilege of the elite.
Yeah.
Well, from what I was reading in the article, they were saying is it's a natural consequence of the fact that no one's actually paying for it. It's all loans. Since the
Bull
mon-
fucking shit. I'm paying for that shit every month.
right, but not when you're in school. So the thing is, because that money is theoretical, because it's not yet realized, and it can be deferred and all of this other crap, the colleges feel justified to continually increase. And what are you going to do? I mean, it's like an OPEC. They're all freaking doing it in lockstep
That
with
makes
each other.
no sense because the colleges continuously increasing their tuition only means they're going to have less and less people enrolled until they're not. Until
No,
they shut
because
down.
they've been sold this bill of goods. They live the American
You
dream to get the white
believe
picket
that-
fence. You need that degree.
They teach you that if you go to college,
You-
you're going to get out, you're going to get a job in your field, you're going to make
And
enough
you'll
That
pay
money.
it
doesn't
back
work anymore.
eventually.
It doesn't.
That doesn't
It
work
doesn't.
anymore because people are looking around and seeing that the people around them are making the same amount of money as they are with their fancy college degree, plus they're paying huge loans
Yeah.
that are basically equal to the cost of a house,
Oh yeah.
and they're not any better off.
Yeah.
So no, that doesn't work anymore because that lie does not feed anybody.
But they're only just figuring that out.
Yeah, they're figuring that out.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I'm hoping.
But the bottom line is that bubble's going to pop. It
I'm
doesn't
hoping the
work
whole
that
system
way.
catches fire. Yeah, I mean, I really.
Well,
am.
I think it's starting.
Um,
Well, certain candidates want to have a free local college. It might actually be a thing that can actually be done.
but these skills that we are taught are invaluable. I mean, we do.
I mean, if we have a bubble break,
we do need a skilled workforce. We do need people who can innovate and invent and reinvent and create and disseminate. These are invaluable skills that the
Oh,
American
sure.
people need, that we need the American people to have, that we need people who can, I mean, look, right now, going into this, in the medical industry, there's not enough nurses. By far, there's not enough nurses to handle what's going on in the world. We
well,
have a sick
between the
population.
hours, the workload, the pay, it's not always commensurate with what's
So-
asked of them either.
No, yeah, they're getting fucked, and a lot of people have this perception that nurses are paid exceptionally well and maybe better than the average person.
There's a
but-
lot of education too that goes into
But
that too.
well, and then there's continuing education where every 2 years that they have to renew their license, and there's all these scams behind
It's
nursing
also
that
a
aren't the
dirty,
nurse's fault.
thankless job.
Oh yeah, well, oh my god, I mean, I went through college for this stuff, and I got hit, I got spit on, I got kicked. People are terrible, you
Yep.
know.
Wrench your back with some old, out of shape person.
I would
Oh,
never want
my
to do
first
it.
day
Oh my God.
in my first day in medical school, lift a 350-pound man.
Yeah, who can't keep their balance, need assistance, and you don't always have the crane lift available.
So, but yeah, I mean, this is where we're at. We either have these people or we don't, and they don't give a fuck. You know, I mean, because the big hospital corporations are making in the billions of dollars, regardless of the fact that they're understaffed.
Well, that's a
the-
whole other show.
That is the whole other show.
Well, and
but
we will
that
talk
part
about
is
that.
such bullshit that you like the price you pay for your medical services, and then EMTs and nurses are paid shit.
Well, that goes back to what I was saying with the whole loans. As long as that money can be funneled through somebody else, through another agency, there's someone else getting fed, there's no incentive to lower things. And which, of course, I'm talking about insurance companies and all that. But that's a whole nother show. But yeah, that's what's happening with college. They keep raising it because they can. And what are you going to do? I mean, honestly, no one's interested.
default on your loan. I mean, essentially,
Sure.
that's the bottom line.
But it's the only one that you can't be forgiven, have your debt forgiven of after declaring bankruptcy.
That's true. The
That was a recent
system-
change.
I mean, that is a whole other episode. That's going into finance. But basically, the system, the way that it works, should not be. I understand the fundamentals and why it is legal, but basically, it's not possible for everybody to pay back every single loan. Because while the money is technically accounted for in all cases, the interest isn't. And therefore, it's not really possible. The money that's going up into the corporations and everything that's getting paid down through wages, that money doesn't exist. And there is no possible way for every last person to make enough money to pay off the money that is owed. It's a whole cycle. It just doesn't work. Someone's always going to end up falling under the wheels.
Well, as long as we have a
kind of
for-profit education system. We need to do away with the for-profit education system. We need a right to the education necessary to have the life we want. And I do think that there's a certain amount of fat that's been stitched into the system, you know, things that aren't necessary that I think will go away when this stuff is paid for by us, you know? So instead of, you know, them trying to force us to take classes we don't need so that they can, you know, pack their pockets.
Oh, I hate that.
That's true. There should be specialized programs and stuff. You know, you don't necessarily
Streamlined.
need. Yeah.
Well, okay,
Get
like
me in and out.
I was
with that
saying in
degree.
nursing, and not just in nursing, in many other areas too, but in nursing is an easy one to look at because I know enough about it. To where you can be, you know, you start out, you can be an STNA, and then you can be an LPN, then you can be an RN, then you can be a specialist, a nurse practitioner, you know, all the way on up. Why isn't this a singular path? Why can't we start out going for STNA, and then the next step is LPN, and the next step is RN? But that's not how it works. You know
Oh,
what I'm
that's
saying?
ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. But
And it's because they can make more money off
right,
of you.
yes, exactly.
Oh, and it's a whole different schools that offer those courses.
Right, but why wouldn't you do a straight through kind of thing? You know,
Right.
I can become an RN with hopes of one day becoming a doctor if I go this path. Why wouldn't you do it that way? It just makes more sense. And half the time I end up meeting
How
nurses
many English and
who
math
know
classes do you
more.
need?
And I'll tell you why, by the way. And I was told this by a professor too. I agree. How many English and math classes do you need? But I was told this by a professor. The reason that you can't take the nursing course up to doctor is because doctors come into this with money to begin with.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah, of course they do.
So
it's a
this
very
is-
limited industry.
This is about elites being able to keep the good jobs right off the bat.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
obviously.
yeah. There's no crossing the lines there. There, you stay in your lane. That's
Right.
what that's about.
That's exactly what that is, yeah. Or risk everything trying to become a doctor.
I mean,
Right.
Because
doing
if you end
dosage
up with
over
the student
time.
loans, a doctor you would have to pay back, you wouldn't be able to live
Right.
I could see basic algebra with a single
if you
variable.
didn't make it as a doctor, you know.
Right.
And you need to be able to compose an email with enough syntax to communicate basic English. If you can do those two things, I don't know why you need another course.
I currently work with industry
It depends
professionals.
on your. It depends on your major.
I currently work with industry professionals in the medical industry. Most of these people, not super bright. And they have, some of them, doctorates, you know, and it's just like, if you did have many different math and English courses, it's not showing now.
Yeah,
So-
that always amazes me when you meet someone with an advanced degree, and most of the time, pretty impressive people. But sometimes you're like, how? How
Dude.
did that happen?
Dude, I deal with people with degrees all the time that I know are making probably double and triple what I make a year. And they will ask me to do the most basic things like editing a
That's
Word
because-
document for them.
Did you sleep
Because
with
they
every
literally
professor?
don't know how to do the most basic of things that like how do you not know how to upload a document? Like how do you function?
Education is being used as a gatekeeper instead of what it should be used for, which is to actually train people on how to do the jobs
That's
necessary
exactly
to
right.
keep the country running, to keep the world running. You know, if we took the money out of this, that would mean a poor person could rise to the top through merit alone, through being
and God
able
forbid that
for being
happen.
better, right? Whereas right now, because cost factors into it, only the elite can afford to take on the college education and do the best jobs. And many of them are going to schools that really, Dad bought us a wing, so you get A's, yay, you know.
Right.
Whereas you, who was born poor, is going to have to work 10 times as hard as that guy.
Yeah, I
Right.
love how that still hasn't been addressed. Now, you can't buy your way onto a rowing team, but you can buy a new library wing.
Right.
Yep.
Interesting.
So, but in the end, I mean, and this is just going to keep being made harder because all we're looking at is an education system that's under attack from multiple points. One of these areas that's being attacked from, the most easy to see, is apathy. The fact that that, oh, another levy's on the ballot, and my taxes are already high enough, so I don't want to pay for that levy. So I'm going to vote it down. And what? Well, so we have less funding for education. And that's just not
They
how
sometimes
it should
do
work.
that to themselves too, though, by the way they spend money. That unfortunately, some of the local schools do not always spend money in an efficient or smart
Oh,
manner.
and yeah, I mean, I don't care.
That's once again a matter
a-
of corruption a lot of the time.
Yeah,
That's the
a
thing.
superintendent should not be making in the
So
hundreds
so
of
then
thousands of
so then
dollars.
you're in a position of, do I raise my property taxes for somebody who's obviously lining their own pockets, or do I screw over kids?
Well,
Like, what
our-
do I do?
You need to
In-
make sure
in
that
my
you're voting
hometown-
on that school board.
In my hometown, I think our superintendent makes 3 or 4 times what our mayor makes.
That's insane.
So,
Is that true?
yep, that's true. It's insane. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
So, and not that I think the mayor's worth that much, but why does our superintendent need that much? He walks out.
What
and
are you doing?
well, they're not fixing our school system. That's for fucking sure.
Exactly. Like, has anybody been happy with anything? Like, if you're
No, people hate our school system.
like
Yeah, they're terrible.
that should
at their
be
jobs.
like when you're doing awesome. That's when you get the bonuses that bring you up to that level.
But my point is that even if the school system was great, a lot of people would have a hard time passing that levy. You know, it just really doesn't matter. It's one of those things where people just don't feel like they see the immediate return on investment.
You're not wrong in some cases, but I do think that it helps when your school system is one that people are happy
I
with.
think you have less of a problem than we have,
Yeah.
but it's still a problem. It's just how it is. You're like, oh, is my kid getting any better of an education than if we didn't pass this levy? You
Right.
know.
Yeah, that's I always feel so guilty every election. I go in and I go,
So school can't be about money. It can't be about money.
it shouldn't
Here's
be.
the thing is
it
I
it
always
shouldn't even
vote-
be up to me. It should just be funded.
Right. I always vote for the schools because basically the bottom line is that the superintendent's not going to be the one that hurts when it fails. It's going to be the kids because no matter what, the money's not coming out of his paycheck. It's not coming out of the school board's paychecks. It's not coming out of any of those higher up people's paychecks. They're always going to be fine. It's always going to come. It's going to they're going to cut the money to the kids before they cut the money to any of those higher ups.
So, but the second problem is now what we run into. Politicians themselves. A more educated population is harder to rule.
Very true.
So politicians are, well, especially the right-wing ones or authoritarian politicians, are often against higher education. They're against more of it. And we were just talking about that one guy who's like,
Right, who wanted to eliminate
Eliminate
college because
college.
it creates liberals.
yeah.
good luck with your surgery, prick. But I mean, seriously, I don't. And living around stupid people is difficult. Like, it's actually physically painful.
Stress-inducing?
Yeah, it's painful for me to be around stupid people. So
Technically shortens your lifespan.
please educate yourself and others. I mean,
Like, it's just, how do you think that's a good argument? Like, when we educate people, they become liberals. Why do you think
Yeah.
that is, you idiot?
maybe it's because they stopped being stupid. Just a thought.
Like, that's,
So, between apathy and the funding and politicians afraid they're going to lose power, and there's and various traditional thoughts on things, it's, oh, you're going to stop like being part of our dumbass culture or whatever like that because you're educated now. Then we add in evangelicals specifically attacking education.
Mm-hmm.
There is a large group of evangelical Christians who are personally attacking education, and they're using the office of one Betsy DeVos and one Donald Trump to do it. They're trying to force through their Christian agendas to ruin the education system.
Now, I briefly looked over this that you sent me, and I gotta wonder, is this just a wackadoodle that we don't need to worry about? What is the actual threat of this figure?
What is the threat level of
yes.
them?
Like,
I don't
what's the chances of
actually-
him actually impacting us?
I don't actually know this person's personal credentials, but I do know that they are in contact with the office of Betsy DeVos and Donald Trump.
Well, his school
Specifically.
picture here is pretty creepy, so...
That's most evangelicals, actually. They're most evangelicals are creepy and fucking weird. So, just so you know, it's a cult, and they're like that. So, I'm not being mean. Christianity, I don't think in general is necessarily would be considered a cult. Evangelical Christianity is a doomsday cult. So,
I just.
These guys are behind the whole Left Behind thing, and they believe that Jesus is physically going to come here and destroy the world.
What
and
is
stuff
this
like that.
Council for National Policy? Is this like an official?
Well, the thing about things like that is that you can kind of call your organization whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, as
And
long as you
it's
register,
very-
you could be 5 people and sound like a billion.
Yeah, it all sounds very official, and unfortunately, these people are easily conned into believing it's an official thing and get backed up. Back it up.
These
An
are people always
umbrella
writing in TV
organization
stations.
and networking group for conservative activists in the U.S.
So, but as you can see from the evidence, they want to destroy the education system as we know it and force their religious views on all of us.
It's quite frightening,
Oh, yeah.
actually.
Yeah, the Bible literacy programs and
And basically eliminating public education completely in favor of paying thousands of dollars for your education.
Right.
Or good luck with your homeschooling.
Which will pretty much eliminate most.
It'll eliminate
Americans from
education for almost everybody.
well, it's kind of the defunct, whatever way of looking. Okay, they're basically trying to do away with the public schools by making them not an option. Sort of way they're slowly getting
Sabotage it so that everybody's like, you know what, we should
like
just get
Planned
rid of this.
Parenthood. Like
Right.
you can't get an abortion if you can't find a clinic.
Right. Yeah. And then, well, they started with making it really inconvenient by harassing people going in and out of Planned Parenthoods. And then it was finally get it delegislated, smear their names, all kinds of things, threaten people. I mean, these are the same group of people, by the way, that do that stuff. These are the same people who go and harass people trying to
Can
get
I read
healthcare.
a little bit about what this CNP is?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, so it says that now these are the ones who've created that. This guy is the
Psychopath in chief.
yes, he is the committee chairman, the executive director of the CNP. And it says that they are the umbrella organization for networking group for conservative activists in the U.S., described by the New York Times as a little-known club of a few hundred of the most powerful conservatives in the country, who meet 3 times yearly at undisclosed locations for a confidential conference. The Nation has called it a secretive organization that networks wealthy right-wing donors together with top conservative operatives to plan long-term movement strategy, and was founded in 1981
That's
by
some creepy language.
Tim LaHaye as a forum for conservative Christians seeking to strengthen the political right in the U.S. So this is like the bones of it is a religious thing.
So it's like cult/terrorist organization.
Right. I mean, the
They're
language.
like Cobra, right? Like
Operatives, meeting in secret.
right, yeah.
I mean, I could see it being more humorous if maybe it was like a blue fox costume.
It would
like
be
at some
more
kind of furry
humorous
convention
if I wasn't very concerned that Betsy DeVos is very open to this kind of thing, and
Yeah.
Trump would absolutely be on board with it.
She also is a
If
psycho.
we had sane
Is
people
she
in
or
office,
is she just evil? I can't tell which.
she's
Much- no.
very evil.
Much
no, but I mean,
distinction.
like, would she do this just for the votes?
No, I think she's in a cult. I think she's in
that
this cult.
she would profit like fucking crazy off of this.
Oh yeah. 'Cause she's
that's-
all
Queen-
about
Queen of the
ruining lives
student
for
loan?
money.
Loans?
I'm just wondering about the motivation.
So the goal is to destroy the Department of Education,
Absolutely.
rename what they got into some kind of council where they could advise states, but they would have no power over the states, which would then eliminate, because at the state level it's much more easy to
Yeah, it's
bribe
libertarian
politicians
nonsense.
into destroying the education system, so that people who can't afford it just can't get educated anymore.
And then the poor states would absolutely feel the devastating effects.
Oh yeah,
of this.
Kentucky, there'd be nobody educated
Oh,
anymore.
God.
Right.
The welfare states.
Without a federal standard,
Right.
and no federal money or anything coming in, there would be.
It'd be
yes.
like Mad Max, just dirty, wild-haired kids
So
with Cheerios stuck
what
on their
little
face.
good things happen at the state level, though, is from federal funding, and the federal funding would be eliminated altogether. It's just, it's ridiculous, and I'm almost certain, because this always usually means that federal funding would then be turned around and given to the corporatized version of this, the pay to play thing. So it's like some corporation would take over your education system, and they'd be using it as a scam to make money.
Yeah, so some religious, supposedly non-profit school.
Right. So, I mean, it's crazy. And then, almost everything, because most of the schools that are already in place are religious schools. So you would either be forced to send your kid to a religious school or pay out the nose for some, whatever else there is.
I'm not sure there is much else.
So
Some states have charter schools, but I wouldn't say that's an across-the-board option.
And who knows if they would survive
Well, and
without
the-
federal funding or
Well,
anything.
once again, they are all insanely expensive. So you can't afford, the average person can't afford this shit. So once, like I said, what's going to happen? They're going to offer financing, and you're going to be buried in debt
Oh,
for
dear
life.
God.
And that's what it comes down to. Our education system is under attack by elites and evangelical Christians.
So you're basically describing like 37 religious schools and like one non-religious academy of higher education,
Which would be too
where
expensive to
they're-
go
all
to.
the kids are eating, non-GMO foods from a Whole Foods, or maybe they'll grow it themselves and do some kind of program like
My
that.
kids' school lunches are already expensive enough.
So it'll be like 87 grand a year. Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome. Oh, God.
So, all sounds pretty bleak, right?
10 years from then would be pretty bleak.
This is why we need a complete separation of church and state. We need it needs to be to where religious organizations cannot even lobby for things. There's a separation. You don't pay taxes, so you shouldn't get influence.
Well, they're not supposed to be able to like tell you how to vote from the pulpit or any of that.
Yet they do it all the time. In fact, the biggest right-wing activists are evangelical Christians on Twitter. So these people net hundreds of thousands of people under
Yeah,
their
I've heard they
banner of hate.
control 25% of the vote.
And their messages are awful. If you listen to these people, they sound like straight psychopaths. It's hard to believe that anybody believes that there's any connection between Jesus and right-wing pastors. Like, just
Yeah, I mean,
crazy.
whatever they're preaching does not match up to any of Jesus's principles. I mean, there's a disconnect at minimum.
right. So we brought this to your attention. Be aware and vote informed. Anything else, guys?
I don't know. We're all doomed. Future's
This is,
bleak.
this is why we need to vote. So I am hopeful, fingers crossed. Vote blue no matter who. See you next time.